tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. Homage to the Blessed One, Perfect One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Triple Gem. And greetings to all the listeners of this Dhamma Talk. So, as we all human beings are in our lives, we do many things. And all these things we do, if we contemplate correctly, is to gain happiness, to be happy. That's our primary aim. Whatever we do, whether studying, getting a job, or doing a business, or having a family, or having children, or whatever it is all aimed at gaining some level of happiness. But if we contemplate, if we see the lives of the people, how people live, they have certain aims, objectives, they set for themselves. When they go there, then they don't really find that happiness. When they go there, then they say, okay, I have come this far. But then after that, is this all my sufferings ended? Really? All my dissatisfaction went away? That doesn't really happen. So we must understand that our quest is for happiness. All beings seek happiness. And if we have to be happy, then we have to understand what happiness is. We can't just seek things or have a chase after things. This I want, that I want. This should be done, that should not be done. This I like, that I don't like. Then we would never be happy. Even when the Bodhisattva, before his enlightenment, he was also seeking an answer to the certain problems, aging, sickness, death, and loss, suffering, grief, pain, all these people experience. He was also seeking an answer. And he found the answer. The answer is what we call these Four Noble Truths. And this is wonderful because these Four Noble Truths is not something that was applicable only to certain sections of the people or certain cultures or certain areas or anything like this. These Four Noble Truths is something that we can see it is applicable everywhere. The Buddha wasn't talking about Indian people at that time or North Indian in the Majjhima Desa, what you call North and Central Indian people or anything. He was talking about suffering of all living beings. They all have the body, they all have the mind, and this body and mind is constantly changing. And we don't have that wisdom, we don't have that understanding to recognize and live with that change in the wise way that he found out. So we see, when we say, like if you go to a student, sometimes students come here in the monastery from colleges, schools, and then we ask, what do you want? What do you want to do in your life? Some people say, okay, I want to get this, finish this school or college or get this degree get this kind of job, and then we ask them, okay, we'd be in a certain position in a company or in a business, and then we may be starting a family. So it's like setting goals and chasing them. And then what do you want? When we ask them, why do you want this? What do you really want all to do all these things? What do you achieve by doing this? Most of the people aren't very sure. Some people have a little better idea. They say we want happiness. So the seeking happiness is the important thing. But then seeking happiness in the wrong way, then it all gets messed up. So we should know how to seek happiness in the right way. If we look into our own lives, this body we have, and then this body is constantly changing. This body is constantly changing. Every day it is changing. Every moment it is changing. Huh? So we say aging, aging. Some people have the idea that aging is only for old people. Only old people are subject to aging. But then even the newborn babies, even the newborn babies, when they start growing up, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 1 year, 2 year, like this, when they start growing up, 1 year, and then gradually 10 years, 20, 30, 40, 50, it's all aging. It's all aging. Because if they were not subject to aging, they wouldn't change. Then 1 year, 1 day old baby would remain like a 1 day old baby, or 1 year old baby would remain like a 1 year old baby for the rest of their lives. But that is not the case. Because they are subject to aging, they are subject to change, it changes. And where does it go? Where does it end up finally? It ends up in death. So when people go and they go to schools, colleges, offices, and different cities and different towns and countries, they say we go here, we go there, but then ultimately they all go towards the death. That's the fundamental essence of life. All of us. This we do not contemplate correctly. What does it mean when I say we do not contemplate correctly? We have suffering, but we don't really recognize the suffering. We don't recognize the suffering. We don't recognize that these things are suffering. We have many types of suffering. Some physical, some mental, some big, some small. And this is exactly what the Buddha was talking about. When the Supreme Buddha became enlightened, he understood these four noble truths. First noble truth is about the suffering, dissatisfaction. And this dissatisfaction comes from where? Our own minds. Because our mind doesn't know. It grasps at things that should not be grasped, but we grasp. Should not, we try to hold on to things, try to cling on to things when ideally we should not. When we look at this body, we feel, let this body remain like this. Let this body not be subject to aging. Let this body not subject to sickness or death. But that doesn't happen because body has its own nature. And then when it doesn't work according to our wish, we struggle. Why did it happen like this? Why did I fall sick? Why am I getting old? Why do I have to die? But then this is the nature of this body. This is how it is. It's not something that depends on whether I like it or I don't like it. This is the nature of this body, nature of the body, material body, to change, that we can't stop. Our mind chasing so many things, grasping so many things, running here, running there, doing this, doing that. Why does our mind do all these things? It seeks some level of satisfaction. If you see, it seeks certain level of satisfaction. So it has a wrong idea. It has an idea. Let's say it has an idea that this is going to be satisfactory if I stay with this particular object. if we look deeply, this is going to be like this is going to be good, this is going to be satisfactory, this is going to be pleasant, I can stay with this object. But then this changes, this has to change. Not something that we can keep it like this forever. We can't. Nobody can. It's not possible. If it was possible, we could do like this. We could say, we could set a timer. We can set a timer on our phone, but if we say, okay, I set a timer from morning 6 to 10, I will think this thought. 10 to say 2 o'clock, I'll think this type of thought. If we could set a timer in the mind, if we could fix the mind, if we could make it certain, permanent, reliable, then there wouldn't be suffering. Then I know, okay, whatever thoughts cause me suffering, I can just avoid them. I just think all this, but that doesn't happen. Because mind has its own way of functioning, body has its own way of functioning. This we have to acknowledge first of all. Most people, if we start acknowledging, oh, this body is like this body is changing all the time. This body is changing. If this body wasn't changing, then there was only one time you could brush your teeth and say rest of the lives you don't need to brush your teeth. Only one time you could take a bath, and then rest of the life you wouldn't require to take a bath. Like that. Only one time you eat, and then rest of the lives you don't need to eat. Body is not changing. Then it would have been perfect. But that doesn't happen. You eat, then you feel hungry, and then again you eat. And when you eat, you have to go attend the nature's call, eat and drink. And again you feel hungry. It keeps on going. That's why the Lord Buddha said, the hunger is the greatest disease. Hunger is we don't consider it as a disease, but Lord Buddha says this is the greatest disease because we have to feel hungry every day. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, we will feel hungry. No matter how much we eat or what we eat, we would still be hungry. We can't stop this. So this is a burden that we have to carry all day long, all life long, hunger, thirst. Similarly, all the changes with this body, we have to carry this, all these things. Similarly with the mind, we don't want certain thoughts to come, or we don't want certain memories, certain perceptions to come, but they come, they have to come. When it comes, we struggle. Oh, I don't like this. This is not good. I don't feel good about it. Because we have wrong way of doing things. When the suffering, when the dissatisfaction arises, we are not wise people. We are not wise people. So we fight with the dissatisfaction. We struggle with the dissatisfaction. We don't wisely understand as it is. When changes happen on this body, we don't see it as a change. We see my body is suffering, so we struggle. But our practice, our whole practice of this Sila Samadhi Panya, of this Eightfold Path, is to understand this, that this is changing. This is not certain. This is not going to be like, when we have suffering, this is not permanent, this is not certain. When we have happiness, pleasant feelings, pleasant sensations, it is not going to be like this. It is going to change. But that doesn't come automatically. That wisdom wouldn't just suddenly arise out of nowhere. That's why we practice. That's why we make the effort. When we say Dana, Shila, Bhavana, or Shila, Samadhi, Panya, generosity, morality, meditation, leading to wisdom. Generosity. When we say generosity, sharing with others, that has a purpose. That has a purpose. What is the purpose? To be able to let go of our greed, to be able to let go of our clinging. possessiveness, stinginess, miserliness, selfishness. We cut them down when we are generous people. We cut them down when we extend our hands to help others, whatever way we can. So we cut down on these wrong tendencies. We have to. If we are selfish people, greedy people, miserly people, then we cannot be generous. We cannot help others. We cannot be compassionate to others. So we have to cut down on these. That's why we do dana. Yes, dana has merits, but that's not the only reason we do dana. If we do dana wisely, then we always recognize dana has a purpose, that it gives us merit, it gives us certain level of happiness here and now and afterwards also, but that's not the only reason we do dana. We do dana because we want to let go of certain things. This clinging, this greed, this possessiveness, selfishness, we want to cut them down. So we do dana. When you practice the sila, morality, goodness of speech, goodness of bodily actions, goodness of behavior, kindness, compassion, good behavior that is based on metta, karuna, like this. This has a purpose so that we can cut down the unwholesome habits, the wrong tendencies that bothers the mind, that makes our mind agitated. When we avoid these actions, when we restrain from these things, then we can make our mind a little more peaceful, free from burden. When we tell lies, when we tell lies, we may get the job done. We may get our business done. We may get to earn a little more money or get a better position in our job or in our lives. But in our heart, we know there is something wrong. Other people need not tell us. Other people need not come and point it out to us. We know in our heart this isn't correct. People do wrong things thinking, okay, nobody would see them. But you see, you yourself see when you do something wrong. So you are, in a way, you are disrespecting yourself by doing wrong. Oh, I see it's not an issue. It's not a big thing. But then when we see our own wrong, we only suffer. Other people don't suffer. So recognition of suffering. That's why the Lord Buddha started with first noble truth, that is dukkha arya satya, recognition of suffering. I have come across a lot of people when I was a layperson, and after I became a monk, and then I came across a lot of people. That time also, this now after becoming monk also, that uh, I asked people, do you have suffering? Do you have dissatisfaction? They would say, no, 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 I have no suffering. I have no dissatisfaction. Because they're unable to recognize their own suffering. They have problem with their family members. They have problem maybe with money or job or with their bodily sickness or bodily sickness or uh, some kind of loss or grief they're struggling with. But then they will say, no, no, it's part of life, they would think. They would say, this is part of life. Everybody goes through this. This is normal. But they don't recognize one simple point. If this is part of life, if this is normal, then suffering is normal. Suffering is part of life. Life is suffering. This they don't recognize. They say it is there, but they don't say, oh, it is. If it is there, then this must be the nature of all lives. Dukkha is the nature of all living beings. Dukkha is something that would come to all living beings. It's something that we can't change or avoid. This recognition is very important. When we start with this recognition, oh, this is dukkha, there is dukkha, it is never going to be perfect. It is never going to be completely satisfactory. This recognition is important. If we have this recognition within our heart, if we contemplate like this again and again, looking into our body, oh, this is aging, this is changing, This is subject to sickness. Recognize. We recognize this suffering. And this is a very important step. Dukkha Arya Satcha, when we say first noble truth, the Dukkha Arya Satcha is starting to recognize that these things are not satisfactory. This body is never going to be satisfactory. Mind is not going to be satisfactory. External things are also not going to be satisfactory. That recognition is important. When we have that recognition, then we can go to the next level. A lot of people don't want to recognize these. They think recognition of dukkha is a big dukkha. But recognition of dukkha with a wise mind is a big happiness. Then you don't get stuck in most places. Because you know this is dukkha. So we start recognizing, looking into our body, looking into our mind, looking into other people, looking around, seeing things, how it is, how the things are changing, how the things are not certain, how the things are not stable. We look into them again and again. As a layperson, many years back when I was a layperson, I was a lawyer. I did study and from a reasonably reputed law school, and then I did get good enough, decent, well, quite good enough, whatever, job and all that things. But then I observed one thing, whether I was studying well or either way I was graduating from a good university or whether I was getting into a good job or changing and going to another good job, whatever it is, things weren't perfect. Things weren't necessarily matching to our expectations. Our expectation is what? If I pass out from this university, or if I get this type of job, or if I earn this much of money, things would become perfect. Things would be satisfactory. But then something or the other kept on cropping up. Something or the other, big or small, kept on coming up again and again in lives, which I observed. And then I thought, oh, this isn't going to be good enough. This is never going to be good enough. Because we do things and then suddenly, oh, no, this is not good enough. We have to go to another place, do another thing, be someone else. But then that's also not good enough. So this is how we recognize the suffering. Oh, this is never going to be good enough because our mind, our expectations is something else and we chase something else. We seek happiness and we chase impermanent things. Things that are not stable. Things that are not going to be like this forever. Even this body that we call our own is not going to be like this forever. The mind also. All the time changing. That's why the first noble truth Lord Buddha says, Sankitena panchupadana dukkha. This body-mind aggregate, when we cling, when we have expectation, let this be like this, let this not be like this, then we will suffer. Because it cannot go according to our wish. It has its own way of functioning. And then when we recognize like this, then we can go to the second noble truth. Oh, if that is the case, then there is certain level of expectation, idea. Oh, let this be like this, let this not be like this. Let my job be satisfactory, let my education be satisfactory, let my relationship be satisfactory. We have this expectation. And this is where the problem starts, because they're not supposed to be. It's not that they are necessarily bad. The job is not necessarily bad. The education is not necessarily bad. The business you do not necessarily bad. Relationship you have with your wife, husband, son, daughter, father, mother. It's not necessarily bad, but they are inherently changing, therefore unsatisfactory, never going to be good enough. That's the thing. When we look at it like this, then we understand, oh, then I have certain wishes. Let this be like this, or let this not be like this, but then it is not like this. This is the second noble truth. Craving, always giving, creating, giving rise to, creating wishes, desires. Let this be like this, let this not be like this. Both ways we struggle with things. When we say, let this be like this, and then after some time it doesn't happen, we struggle. Why? When we say, let this not be like this, and it happens, why? So basically, we are carrying a big, heavy burden of craving, which is also coming because of our wrong understanding, ignorance, this big burden that we are carrying. And this, with this big burden, it's like a glue, it's like a glue that sticks everywhere, wherever we go, whatever we experience, through the body, through the mind, it gets stuck there. This glue, this stickiness. And then after some time, we want to get up and go from there. You go to somebody's house, you sit there on the chair, on the sofa, cushion, whatever it is. But then our body is covered with glue. And then you start getting up. You can't get up so easily. It's a little uncomfortable because the chair is stuck because of the glue. Cushion is stuck with you because of the glue. Here, this glue is far more stronger. This is glue of mind. This is the craving that gets stuck everywhere. When it is getting stuck, we do not recognize. We do not have enough mindfulness to recognize this is going to generate craving now. This is generating craving now. This is getting stuck. When I try to disassociate, try to remove this, it will be suffering. We don't have that level of mindfulness and wisdom. But when we practice, we can generate gradually that level of mindfulness and wisdom. This is going to get stuck. If I do this, surely this will get stuck. And when it will get stuck, when I have to come out of this, it will be suffering. It will not be good. But that wisdom we don't have. So we always get stuck, whatever we experience. With the body, with the mind, we get stuck everywhere, badly get stuck. After some time, we want to go somewhere else, but we are stuck. We want to do something else, we are stuck. So we are stuck with the past. That's how people are stuck with the past. They can't let go of their past so easily. They struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle, stuck with the past. Sometimes stuck with the future with craving. Oh, I can make these things. I can start this business. I can do this, get this education. I can get this job. I can have this kind of relationship. I can do these things. Again, stuck. And then it doesn't happen. Again, suffering. So always you're getting stuck. We are getting stuck with liking, with disliking. When the objects are good, pleasant, with liking, sense objects, pleasant sense objects, with liking, what we call sense craving, craving connected with our sensory objects, kama tanha, sensual craving, and then and then we say, oh, let this continue, it's good, let this not come to an end. Again, craving for continuity. It doesn't stop here in this life. So we may have the wish to continue. Okay, let there be another life. What's the big deal? Another life, maybe a little better than this. Maybe this life I was earning okay, but then next life I can be a very rich man, or maybe divine being or something. So it doesn't stop there. And then when things are not pleasant, not good enough, not according to our wish, unpleasant, painful, oh, let this come to an end, let this come to an end. First, we say, let this come to an end, let this pain come to an end, or suffering come to an end. When they too much of aversion, then they say, let this life come to an end, people commit suicide. And all this is because of lack of recognition that we basically don't understand is whatever we are experiencing not really worth sticking to in the first place. We should not get stuck in the first place, because things would not be like this, whether good or bad, whether extremely good or extremely bad. It is not going to be like this. Therefore, not worthy enough to get stuck. Nothing worthy enough to get stuck. This wisdom is something that we need to generate. So when we generate this wisdom gradually, little by little, then we don't get stuck so badly. Initially, we are like those. If you have seen those mouse traps, and when they put a glue, some kind of glue, sticky glue, and then the mouse comes there to eat the food, and then mouse gets stuck, and then it tries desperately to get out of it, but then the poor fellow can't get out of it. Sometimes it struggles, its skin comes off, fur comes off, sometimes it dies also. So ideally, you should avoid that kind of torturous things at your own homes or wherever you are. It's not really a good thing to give trouble to other beings, give suffering to other beings, because all these are actions, the results surely will come. So, anyways, the thing is, our mind is just like this, just like this. A little bit of food, little bit of pleasant thing, little bit of pleasant experience. We go, jump into this, then it gets stuck. We desperately struggle to come out of it. But then we are stuck, badly stuck. So our heart is like this. And some mouse, little smarter, they understand, oh, this must be a trap. This food, though looks good, but it's not good enough, because this food is not supposed to be here at this time, or maybe it looks a little unusual. It's not really what it is. So this is a sign of wisdom. Similarly, when we experience the phenomena through the body and mind, this is not really worth getting stuck. We shouldn't just get stuck here blindly. There might be a trap. This might be a trap. This is the trap of our craving, our ignorance. So this is when we recognize like this our suffering, and then the cause that we are getting stuck. And by getting stuck, our burden doesn't decrease. Our heart doesn't become light, peaceful. It only becomes heavier and heavier. So then we go to the third one. We go to the third one, third noble truth, that is cessation of suffering. When we put down this craving, when we put down this burden, when we start. So we start like this. We practice generosity, dana. We practice morality, goodness of speech, goodness of physical actions, kindness, actions based on kindness, compassion. We practice bhavana, mental cultivation, development of mind, developing peacefulness, one-pointedness of mind, developing wisdom. When we do this again and again and again, repeatedly cultivate these things, what happens? We start recognizing the first one, that this is going to be unsatisfactory, this is not good enough. We recognize the suffering gradually. And then we afterwards recognize the cause. Oh, I am getting stuck. This is bad. And then say in this first place it is bad. And then again I'm getting stuck to something bad, something uncertain, something not reliable. What good am I? Is it good? Is it going to get me happiness or is it going to get me suffering? So we contemplate. So we contemplate. When we contemplate like this, then we understand, okay, if I can put down this craving, if I can just let it go, then I can be a better person. I don't have to suffer so miserably. I don't have to go back to the past so many times. I don't have to go make future planning and then suffer because it doesn't happen. I can just be here at ease at this moment. I can be at ease. Whatever I have, I can see, I can understand. This is gradually moving towards the third noble truth. We are not there yet. It's a big process, big journey. But then we are starting to move towards the third noble truth, ending of suffering. So when we practice like this, when we practice dana, sila, bhavana, when we practice again and again, then we have attained to certain level of happiness. And that level of happiness comes from, again, as I said in the beginning, dana is also letting go of certain cravings, certain unwholesome tendencies. Sila is also like this. Bhavana is also letting go of our mental defilements at a more subtle level in the mind. Making the mind peaceful means we have to let go of a lot of gross defilements in the mind and letting the wisdom arise by making it peaceful. Then we also reduce a lot of our stronger, deep-rooted wrong understanding, wrong views and defilements. So when we do it like this, practice like this again and again and again, then we have some level of happiness, some level of peacefulness, some level of letting go. And then that level of letting go is what we understand. We are starting to understand the third noble truth. We are starting to understand. But then our craving, very powerful. We have carried it on for too long, carried it on for too many lives. We have only made it strong enough, very powerful. So is our ignorance. So sometimes we can let it go, and sometimes it just jumps out from somewhere else or from the backside. Backside, when it comes, we allow it to come because we don't put petrol, we don't put patrolling, this is like surveillance. We don't put the surveillance, we don't put those CCTVs, we don't tell the police to be on high alert, which means we don't keep our vigil with mindfulness, we don't keep our mindfulness intact, we don't observe it. We just let go of this mindfulness, let it be loose. We don't let this be established. But when it is firmly established, then it can't come from back, neither from front side or back side. The craving can't come so easily. But then we have our security is very weak. But when we practice, we can make it stronger. We can make it stronger. And when we make it stronger, then we have this level of happiness, level of peacefulness, level of letting go. And based on that, happiness arises. This is not the happiness of, maybe we are not there yet. This is not the full happiness of Nibbana. But for a temporary moment, we can recognize, oh, this is better than all those things that I have been doing and struggling again and again. This is always a little better. That recognition comes. This is the recognition of the third noble truth. Gradually, the third noble truth is starting to unfold, maybe at a very small level, but still starting to unfold before us. The third noble truth. This one is better. This one has a little more value than all other things I have done. It's a little more valuable. It's a little more worthy than all other things. When we do meditation, for example, we watch our breath or any object, we make our mind peaceful. What is the meaning of making the mind peaceful? That time our defilements, our craving is not very powerful. It is subdued. It is not running wild. It is under control. The mind is peaceful, mind is light, mind gains brightness. When the mind gains brightness, this is a temporary freedom for a short time. But then, if we are wise people, we recognize this. Oh, this is the sign of freedom. This is the sign of freedom. Like somebody who has been put in jail for a very long time, and then one day, after trying for a long time and trying various things, one day that poor fellow is able to break through from prison, run away, maybe not very far, maybe just a couple of kilometers from the prison before he is caught again. But those couple of kilometers that he is running away from prison, he will experience some level of freedom, some level of happiness, some level of lightness. Oh, now I am not in prison. Oh, those fellows tortured me so much. They would torture me every day. This is the torture of craving, and this is the prison of craving. So when you have this temporary peacefulness, temporary happiness based on our practice of dana, sila, bhavana, like this is temporary. But then it is pointing towards something that if I go out of this prison, this is better than living this. So this is a recognition. This is better. So we recognize everything that comes our way, we recognize. We recognize again and again. Recognize with wisdom and mindfulness. When we do like this, then everything is teaching us. All the things in and around us, all our life situations, everything is teaching us. Whether our house is big or small, whether we have a lot of money or don't have money, everything is teaching us. Whether your relationship is good or not good, everything is teaching us, because we are able to recognize everything with mindfulness and wisdom, their true nature, how much value it has or how much value it doesn't have. Is it worthy or not worthy? What is the essence, whether it produces lightness or heaviness, whether it produces going back to the prison or freedom from prison. So we recognize everything we use. If we are wise people, then we can use everything. Every object, every situation of our life is teaching us something, directing towards these noble truths, directing towards freedom. That's why it is said it's a quality of an enlightened person, a sotapanna, or higher above. Whatever they experience. In the Ratana Sutta also it is said, Chattari Arya Sachanya Vechapasati. So their understanding of Four Noble Truth is unshakable. So whatever they experience, good, bad, sometimes they may have happiness, sometimes they may have suffering. But then their mind ultimately goes back to these Four Noble Truths. Oh, this is also within these Four Noble Truths. This is not beyond the Four Noble Truths. So there is suffering, there is cause, there is ending. And then when we do this practice, then the ending, when we recognize the ending gradually by gaining more and more lightness of mind, brightness of mind, peacefulness, based on our letting go, based on our practice, then gradually the third noble truths, third noble truth, it starts unfolding little by little. in various situations. And alongside that, the practice, the Eightfold Path, which is, of course, these 8 factors: right understanding, which is wisdom, right intention, right speech, right actions, right profession, livelihood, right effort, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditative peacefulness. So these factors, it's not like this one day we get up and then we see all these 8 factors in front of us and immediately we understand them. But when we practice dana, sila, bhavana, we are developing these factors. So initially, we have to start by practicing. But then when we practice, then these factors, how it is to be cultivated, their essence, the essence of these factors, essence of this practice unfolds in front of us. It unfolds, it gives us a direction. Oh, then my speech, when I say right speech, it has to be like this. Because this is also connected with, because all these Eightfold Path, it leads to what? It leads to the third noble truth, freedom from suffering. So, for example, right speech. Take any of the factors. Take the right speech. When we have the right speech based on kindness, compassion, we avoid harsh speech, abusive speech, wrong speech, like lying, or divisive speech, not creating friction or conflict between people, allowing people to live in harmony, or avoiding things, talking about unprofitable things, which are not good, which makes our mind go back to the defilements. We avoid such talks. So then there is a level of lightness in our heart. There's a level of brightness in our heart when we practice the right speech, when we practice the right action, whether a monk or a layperson, when we practice the right efforts, for right efforts. All these leads to what? All these leads to this lightness, the brightness, towards freedom. When you have the right understanding, when you know, though, this is the nature of the body, mind, nature of all conditioned things here in this samsara is unsatisfactory. Dukkha jnanam, understanding the suffering, understanding the cause. When you have this kind of wisdom arising again and again at small level and then at a higher level gradually, this gives rise to lightness and freedom and that moment. And then it points towards this liberation. It points towards these 4 noble truths. So all these eightfold, the 8 factors of the noble eightfold path, they are pointing towards that. They're pointing towards freedom. So when we practice and contemplate wisely again and again, observe things mindfully and wisely again and again, then we don't have to really break our head thinking this is going to work or not work, or one of these eightfold factors may be suitable, not suitable, or maybe necessary, not necessary. All these doubts shouldn't appear. We will see they are perfectly in sync. We will see they are working perfectly together. We will see they are pointing all towards the freedom, pointing towards Nibbana. It's as simple as this. Because we have practiced wisely and mindfully again and again in all circumstances. The essence of our practice is to do it every day consistently. Try to be mindful. Try to understand. try to develop the right understanding, try to practice whatever we are doing dana, sila, bhavana, cultivate it again and again, strengthen it. When you have the very high level of dana with us, and very high level of morality with us, then our mind is automatically peaceful. We don't have to struggle too much to make it peaceful. We don't have to fight with too many things and struggle for hours and hours to watch our breath or whatever objects we are observing to develop our samma samadhi. We don't have to struggle so much. No, we don't have to. It's just that we have to set the conditions right. So these 8 factors, they're all necessarily perfectly in coherence. They work as a cohesive unit, and they are all necessarily pointing towards freedom, cessation of suffering. And this wisdom will arise bit by bit within us ourselves if we practice correctly. We don't have to go around and ask people too many times. These 8 factors, maybe I can just skip one, I can just skip 2, or maybe I can just practice this one later. One of the factors or two factors I can just practice later. Maybe I can just, for the next few months or few years, I can just practice 4 of them, 5 of them, 6 of them, 7 of them. Then all these unnecessary things wouldn't come. We know they are working perfectly in sync. We know they are pointing towards freedom, pointing towards cessation of suffering. So this is how our life is. So the 4 Noble Truths that Lord Buddha taught in his first discourse, this is the life of all living beings. Suffering is there. Dissatisfaction is there. The cause is there. We can end the cause also. And there is a path to end it. So basically, Buddha's path is path to happiness. The path that the Supreme Buddha taught us is a path to happiness, path to freedom. But then it is path to freedom only for those people who truly acknowledges and put them in practice, not for any person. I have come across a lot of people and they have said, oh, Buddha's path, the path taught by the Buddha is leading to peace. But then they have no peace because they have not really cultivated. So we must cultivate this path, these 4 Noble Truths, to develop their deeper understanding, their highest understanding, which can lead us to the freedom from suffering within our own hearts. And that's why we practice. We practice because we want to be free from suffering. Simple as that. So if people ask you, why do you practice this? Why do you, as a lay person, say following 5 precepts or offering dana, or following 5 precepts or practicing meditation? Then you can ask them, why do you want to get a job? Why do you want more money? Why do you want a bigger car? Why do you want all these things? They say, oh, I want to be happy. Simple. But then your car is always going to be good enough, always going to be in good shape. Your relationship, your job, things is going to be in good shape. Is it really? But then what I practice, what I'm doing is to go beyond this changing nature, not to struggle with this. Because whatever I may have, as long as I don't, as long as I struggle with it, it's not going to be good enough. Whether I have big and I struggle with it, whether I have small and I struggle with it, it's never going to be good enough. When I don't struggle, then when I have the happiness. whether in sickness or in health, good health, whether in richness or in poverty, whether in old age or in young age. When we don't struggle, we don't have so much suffering. But when we struggle, we have suffering. Whether people are rich or poor, whether they are Indian people or European people or other Asian people or any African people, it doesn't matter. Their heart is the same. The way it gets stuck, as I said, their way of habit of getting stuck is same. Habit of getting stuck and then struggling is same. There it is no different. And that's why the Buddha's teachings are universally applicable, because it is a teaching that goes to the heart, that points to our own heart, that says your suffering is here. Whatever you are, big or small, this or that, doesn't matter. What food you eat, what clothes you wear, what language you speak, whether you are rich or poor, whether you're from this country or that country, doesn't matter. Your heart is like this. As long as you don't change it, as long as you don't make it better, it's never going to be good enough. You will always struggle. Whatever you have or whatever you don't have, you will always struggle. So to come out of this struggle is our purpose of practice. And when you come out of struggle, we have happiness. We have freedom. This is the freedom from suffering. So this is the Dhamma that I wish to share with you. And these Four Noble Truths, when you use them in our lives with mindfulness and wisdom, then our understanding becomes better. And when our understanding becomes better, we can be happier people. So that's where we would like to conclude. And may you remember whatever Dhamma you can gather, and when you listen to it, and listen with your heart, not just with the ears, listen with the heart, letting it unfold. When we receive the Dhamma, we receive the Dhamma with ears, but then we bring it to our heart and let it unfold in its own ways. Then we understand the meanings. Things become clearer. So let it be like this, and we wish that may all of you be happy, healthy, peaceful, and keep progressing on this noble path and attain to the supreme bliss of Nibbana. We'll just conclude with a short blessing. Sabetyo vivajjanto sabarogo vinasato mate bhavato antaraya sukhe dekhayo kohava avivadana selesa nityang uddapachayino chattaro dhamma vardhanti ayuvanno sukhang valang ayurarogya sampatti sarga sampatti mevacha atho nibbana sampatti mena desamichatoti bhavato sabbamangalang rakhantu sabbadevata Sabbabuddhanuvavena, Sabbadhammanuvavena, Sabbasanghanuvavena, Sada Sotte Bhavantu Te. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.